Welcome to Stayf Draws. I'm Stayf, a Dutch illustrator and animator, and this is a live broadcast I'm doing, and there's also a chat box next to this video, and I'll also already see autism animation first. Well, welcome. I'm just going to explain some things about Procreate 4 because I'm still working on a video tutorial about Procreate 4, but that's going to take a while because I've been really busy with other things like the paintings I'm doing for the Look Up series, and I just have printed them out, so I'm just going to show you. These are the artworks I've been working on, and there are 10 paintings, and they're all now on canvas, and they are all painted in Procreate 4, or some in Procreate 3, and these are the paintings. Thanks, Autism Animation. I'm just going to continue in English. These are all paintings of Haarlem, and when you watch my video channel, my YouTube channel, you can see a small documentary about these paintings, how I made them. And this is the hometown I'm living in, and this is the Tyler's Museum, which is the oldest museum in Holland, or in the Netherlands I should say. And these are just the paintings I've made, and I've been quite busy with them. So I've painted them in Procreate, and I also painted on the canvas. So this is a very small one, and here are some bigger canvases. And here's the St. Bavo Church, which is in the center of Haarlem, and that's a really big painting. And this is the last one I just finished today. I painted this one in Procreate 4 using the wet mix brushes. And I also painted it with acrylics on top of the canvas. I'm just going to show you a little trick I did for this painting, because I also did a review of a documentary about an American illustrator, which is called, and he is called CF Payne. And you can also see that on my channel. I did a review on that on Wednesday. So I'm just gonna switch to my iPad. It's my iPad Pro. And here is the painting I did in Procreate 4. So here's the painting I did on my iPad. And here you see the printed version, and it's on canvas. Let me show you. So you can also paint, in very big sizes, because I painted this in A2 size paper, so you can really scan it in. I'm just going to log into my account so I can see all the chats. Let me see. I hope you can hear me. Let me see. Because I'm recording this with my iPhone, so if there's a chat, I don't see it. So I have to log in on my computer. I now can see the chats. Okay. The audio is good. So this I painted with the wet mix brushes, and you can find them in the artistic set. I'm just going to this is live, so bear with me. Just have to pair my Apple Pencil because I had it in my other iPad, and it can only pair to one iPad. Let me see if it's working. Yeah. So I painted this image with the wet mix brushes, and the great thing about the wet mix brushes, which are in artistic, and I painted it with the oil paint brush and the turpentine brush. And the great thing about this is that you can mix your colors on your canvas. And I'm just going to open another file just to show you. Just a default size. So when you paint, for instance, with the oil paint and have a color, you know, you can already see that you can mix your brushes, because it also takes up the white underneath that's on the bottom layer. And if you use a different color, you can mix it already on your iPad. And in this way, you know, you can really paint more artistically. And it feels a lot more like painting on a canvas. What I did with this illustration, I'm just going to show the layers. There's just several layers. So I started out with this image. First painted the basic shapes of the painting, and then I added other things on top. So I always do that because, you know, these are the basics, and I just want to keep it in place. And then on another layer I painted this, and here you really can see the wet mix brushes. But I wanted a more painterly feel, and what I did was use a tip I got from CF Payne, and that's an American illustrator, and he puts some washes over, because he's painting on paper, and he puts a wash of oil paint on top of his painting he has already done. And then he erases it with a kneaded eraser. And I was thinking maybe I could do that with this painting and in Procreate as well. So just translate something that you're doing on paper digital. So what I did is I created a new layer, and I'm just going to turn off these layers so you can better see it. And I used a different brush for that. I used the charcoals, and they have a very nice structure to it. So I used the charcoal block and the burnt tree, and then you get a real rough structure in your painting. And when you put that on top of your painting, you get a more painterly feel to it. So this is a trick I did for this painting, and then it looks a lot more organic. Well, bye Autism Animations. I'm still working on the Procreate 4 manual, and that's going to be a very big book. And I already have another book out, which is called Procreate Primer, and these are the basics of, painting in Procreate 4. And I already did a video about this ebook, and I'm going to leave some links in the description down below when this video is finished, because this is live. I will put some links underneath this video. And these ebooks start out with video. Import images. You may have sketched along with me. And then after that I will explain everything in text. And I will do the same with the Procreate 4 manual. So I have to record around, I think, 26 videos, so that's going to take a while. And this is the Dutch version I did, and that's for Procreate 3.2, and it was just a very big book to do, because I will cover everything you need to know about Procreate, and that's why it takes such a long time to make, because I have to write everything, and I want it to do in such a way that everyone understands how Procreate works. It's also October, and last year I did Inktober, and you can still find all the drawings I did on my YouTube channel, but I also published a free ebook, which is Cubby in Ink. And there you see all the drawings I did for Inktober. But this time around I didn't have time, because I'm working on the exhibition, and the exhibition will be next Friday in Haarlem. So I needed to paint all of the paintings, so I didn't have time to do Inktober this year. But it's a great way, to draw an ink drawing every day in October. And it was started by the American illustrator Jake Parker. And these are just all the Inktober drawings I did last year. And some of them are on sale as well in my Etsy store. And I'm just going to show you. My Etsy store is called Stayf, and I'll also put a link in the description box down below. And here are some of the Inktober drawings I did on paper, and they're for sale on my Etsy store. And I'll ship international, so if you like these drawings and want to buy them and support this channel, you're free to go to my Etsy store. Also gonna show you the playlist, because I already made a playlist of all of Procreate 3 until Procreate 3.2. And when you go to my channel, you can find them in a playlist. Here's the Inktober playlist of 2016. And here are all the Procreate 4 tutorials I've done so far. And underneath that is the Procreate manual. And these are, I think, 26 videos. And some things have changed in Procreate, and I'm just going to, because I'm working on the book now, I'm just going to show you some of the things that, I couldn't figure out in the beginning. So the first thing that has changed is in the gallery. And you now don't have groups anymore, they call it stacks. And I had some difficulty to, for instance, if you go into a stack and want to drag an artwork into your main gallery, you know, in Procreate 3 you could just swipe it up and then it would end up in the main gallery. Now what you need to do is select your artwork and then tap on stack, hold it for a second, and then you can drag it into the main gallery. And if you want to have it back, you know, you can just drop it in the stack and then hold it and then place it in your stack. You can also, let me see if you still can see it. Yeah. You can also select multiple files and then you have to press on select. And well, I'm just going to select these three. And then you can press on stack and then it will create a new stack. And when you press on the title, you can rename your stack. And I'm just going to call it random. And now you're in edit mode, and when you press on the X in the upper right corner, you're back in your main gallery. I also had some trouble with finding the new brush set, because you know, sometimes you import new brushes into Procreate 4, and I have some of them imported here. These are my brushes, and it's a Stayf Ink Wash Flat, Stayf Water Wash, and the Ink Wash, and Stayf Ink Rough. And if you want to create a new brush set, I couldn't find the button for that, but on the left you see all the categories of the different brush sets, and when you swipe it down, and maybe I can zoom in a little, when you swipe down, then here you see new set, so it's hidden, so you have to swipe it down and then you can create a new set. Stayf brushes. And you can reorganize your... Hello Stayf, I've been using Procreate a lot. I'm interested in doing landscapes and sceneries. What are good practices to do to improve in that field, and which tools in Procreate assist me in it? Well, hello Saad, I hope I pronounced your name right. Well, if you want to do landscapes, well, in landscapes, if you don't want to paint buildings or just have landscapes with trees and stuff, the best thing is just to use an approach you will use when you draw on paper, because to me there's not much of a difference between drawing in Procreate or on paper. So maybe I have some landscapes in here. I don't think so. Well, I had this image that's for my I did this for the ebook Procreate Primer, and how I set it, I used the natural brushes for that. So I'm just going to, so if you really want to paint, you know, the artistic brushes, you can really mix your brushes with or the colors with it. So I'm using these brushes a lot now because they're new to Procreate 4. And you know, basically what I do, I first make a sketch. I'm just going to show you. Let me see. So this is the background color, and I first make a sketch, a very light sketch, and that's on top of everything else. Then I paint in the clouds, and on a separate layer the grass, and on another layer the tree, and for some details I'm also using another layer, and that's more for the foreground. So you can build up your landscapes. Let me see. Yeah, the name's right. I've been following James Juliet art for a while. I'm trying to improve from my side. Thanks. Yeah, James makes very cool videos. So if James Juliet also has a YouTube channel, and I'll also leave a link in the description box down below when I finished recording this live session. And he does a lot of tutorials about painting landscapes as well. So does this so do you have any more questions, Saad? Because you can also use the perspective guide if you you know, have to paint something in perspective. I'm just going to open up a new file, and the perspective guide is now available for free in Procreate 4, and you can find that here. When you go to your actions button, go to canvas, and there you have the perspective guide, and then you have to press on so you know how the perspective guide works. You have to press on edit, and then you can, you know, adjust the points. This is a 3-point perspective. This is the third point. And you know that, you know, sometimes helps, you know, to have a perspective grid in if you want to paint a river or something that's, or trees that are more in perspective. This is a great guide to use to draw landscapes. Yes, thanks again. I'm sure Procreate is useful, and I haven't used Perspective Guide a lot, and I will in my next paintings. Yeah, it's a great tool, and sometimes because you can turn on Perspective Assist, and then it will just follow the Perspective Guide, but you can also turn it off and just use it as a guide, you know, just as a reference, that you know where the perspective is. Hello, Bill Mays. Saad asks, do you think I need to learn the composition and perspective when making a scenery, say like a forest where I want to make a certain tree to be prominent? It's always good, you know, to study composition and perspective. What I always do when I start out a painting, and I'm just going to turn off the perspective guide, and I'm just going to clear this. What I do is I start out with sketching just with thumbnails. So if I want to do a painting of something, best way to do it is just to make very small sketches. So this is the canvas, and it's called a thumbnail because it's as big as your thumb. So if you want to paint some scenery, you know, if you have a prominent tree in front, you know, you can just test it out very quickly. So here are some other trees and maybe some birch trees. And maybe there's a mountain in the back. And if you do all these small sketches, these thumbnails, you know, you can really work on your composition. Because when it looks right in this little thumb, it will work on a bigger scale. Okay, I can see a lot of potential with Procreate, Stayf. Yeah, it's a great, I think it's the best painting app there's around. Let me see, can you lower the opacity on the layers? Yeah. When you go to the layers and press on N, can you see it? Yeah. Then here you have an opacity slide, and there you can adjust the opacity of your layer. And you can also apply different blend modes to it. So here are all the different blend modes you can use: multiply, linear, color, darken, and these are the same blend modes you also can use in Photoshop. Saad asks, simulating a preview window like in Photoshop. Yeah, it's a bit the same, but the preview window you cannot draw in, and I'm just doing some quick sketches, you know, to make an interesting composition. And the preview window you use just to see if, you know, something works out in a smaller scale. Hello, Amr. Hi, Stayf. I just want to send you respect for your consistent efforts to help others through your vids and ebooks. Hope to meet you one day and chat over coffee or an ice cream. Would love to meet you too, Amir. And you're from Dubai. That's so cool. Ghost King. Oh my god, thank you so very much. You're the best. Wish I wasn't going to work now. Love to watch and learn. Keep up the great work. Well, this video you can watch later, because it's going to be recorded, and then YouTube will upload it to my channel. Saad asks, what are some missing features you'd like to be available in Procreate if the developers give a chance to suggest? What I would like to see is that you can use fonts, that you can type in words, you know, for your design. So if you're, for instance, doing a comic, you know, that you just can type in the balloon text. I was still explaining about how you can select imported brushes. Let me see, I created this. This is still an empty brush set. And I'm now just going to import it. And here I have my 3 brushes. And what you could do in Procreate 3 is just drag your brush into the new stack. And now there's just one brush here. But what you can also do, just going back to import it, and I have 3 brushes here. And it's the same with the primary and secondary layers. You can select multiple brushes at the same time. So this is the first brush that's selected. So when you swipe from left to right, you have now selected 3 brushes. And now you can drag it into your new brush set. I dragged it into the wrong brush set. Let me see. So that's a cool new feature. Hello Jamie, I just bought an iPad and an Apple Pencil. Any tips? Any tips on drawing? Well, there are several drawing apps you can use. I'm now working in Procreate 4. That's the best drawing app because you can do a lot of different styles with it. There are also a lot of other drawing apps, and you have Sketch Club. That's also a cool drawing app, but you know, when you're drawing, you just want to get used to the tools you're using. And I've tried out all of these apps, but I'm just sticking to Procreate, because in Procreate I can do anything I like. And well, there's also Art Rage, and Adobe also has some cool apps like Adobe Sketch and Adobe Draw, and these apps are a little bit more simple to start out with. Saad asks, do Photoshop brushes work with Procreate? No, they don't. The brushes in Procreate are different because they're built up from 2 different parts. I'm just going to show you. I'm just going to create a new brush, and you can do that by pressing on the plus sign and whoops, just messed it up. New brush, and it's built up from a shape source and a grain source. So what you can do is you can go to Procreate and select a grain from your Procreate files, because this is iOS 11, and now I'm in a brush, or this is not going to work. Select the shape. You can select it from, I'm just going to use the swap from Pro Library, and there you have, this is the source, and I'm just going to use different kind of grain. Just choosing it randomly, and you know, now you have 2 parts that make up the brush, and the extension is called dot brush, so it's different than the brushes in Photoshop. Hello Daniel, hello Steph. I just wanted to ask you, please don't laugh. How many hours did it take for you for practicing to consider yourself as a person who knows how to draw? I think around 20 years. Or how many hours of daily practice would you recommend to somebody like me who has no idea how to hold a pen? By the way, your work is amazing. Well, thanks Daniel. When you start out, you know, you just draw. It's better to draw 1 hour a day than to draw, say, 5 hours once a week, because you need to build up your skills, and the best way to do that is just to watch tutorials, because this is the best time to learn how to draw, because there's a lot of free content around, and some great books are for free, and I learned from books. And there are some books about what's his name, Andrew. Whoops, just gonna select another Andrew Loomis. And when you Google his name, you will find some free PDFs. And it's a very old book, but these show all the basics you need to know how to learn how to draw. Saad asks, I'm a working person, and it takes me 1 to 3 hours a day just sketching and painting unfinished artwork. Yeah, it just depends on what you're painting, because I'm also doing illustration work and cartoony stuff, and that takes less time than, you know, maybe, well, this is still my new iPad. This is my character, it's from the 30s, and this takes less time to make than, for instance, let me see, this drawing, because this took me a lot more time, because it's more realistic and really rendered out. And now you can also see how many strokes you have made for a painting. So when you go to actions and then press on canvas information, there you see everything you need to know about the work file you worked in Procreate. And this took me 9 hours and 23 minutes. And I made 7,911 strokes. Matthew, hello from Portland, Oregon. Love watching your videos. Could you explain how to properly edit the pressure curve in Procreate? I never do that, actually. I still have to find it. I think it's under prefs. Edit pressure curve. What you can do is you can set several points in the, can you see it? Yeah. And you just have to try it. I'm just going to open a different file because I don't want to mess up this file. Just going to make another background so it's better for your eyes. Just going to, well, Sketch is good, you know, to test out how it works. Just gonna reset it. Now it's like this because I can, you know, really paint lightly with it. And if you want to use the pressure curve, and you can also delete the points. So if you're, you know, want to paint real light, you set it up here, and if you want to press harder, so now I'm really pressing hard, and you can even see the glass of the iPad moving. So this is a bit too strong, but if you want to make subtle gradients, you know, you can adjust the settings. And with 2 points you have even more control to do that. Saad asks, I see I wouldn't need that feature to import Photoshop brushes, but it was one of the features that I wished Procreate would support, like layer masking. Yeah, layer masking is great. I've never used it really, but well, the brushes are different in setup, so that's why you cannot import the brushes into Procreate. Saad asks, how do you deal with art blocks? Like a writer's block. What I do if I don't know what to draw, and I do illustrations for my living, so I cannot allow myself to have an art block. So, you know, sometimes you have a day that you're drawing something and nothing works. So then you just have to take a deep breath or take a walk outside and just do it again. But when I'm working on my own stuff, like the paintings I've just shown, then I'm just start doodling, because there's nothing more frightening than an empty canvas. So what I always do, so it's basically it's set to this. So a blank page is always very intimidating. So the first thing I always do is, you know, make it gray. And just doodle something, and maybe I'm not going to use it. But you just need to start out drawing, and if you don't know what to draw, just draw something that's near you. Matthew Gillespie asks, thank you, I've tried many settings already, I will play around with the curve some more. Yeah, it's very, you know, some people like to press harder, and some people like to press very lightly. So you know, need to find out what the best settings for you are. Saad asks, from a painting perspective, I have stopped in the middle when I couldn't finish a landscape. It's like I can't visualize more details on the canvas. Well, sometimes you just have to stop drawing something if a painting isn't working out, and just start a new painting, or just leave it. And sometimes you can just overwork, and especially doing digital art, it's very hard to stop, because you can really zoom in and, you know, do a lot of detail. And here are some other paintings I just did for the Look Up Harlem series for an exhibition I'm having this Friday. And this looks very detailed, but when you zoom in, you see that the strokes are really broad. And that's what I wanted to find out, if I can, you know, paint more in a loose style in Procreate. And then you just, you know, have to leave it, because I can, you know, refine everything, but it won't help the painting. Saad, plus I'm a hobbyist and I draw a way to stay creative and productive of my free time. Yeah, it's always cool, you know, to draw, because I started out drawing as a hobby, and now it's my work. Hello, water bottle. EM, nice videos, thanks. Well, thank you. Hello, Steve. Steve Isaacs asks, how are you getting sputtering line strokes with the new Procreate? It's driving me crazy doing line work and not sure if it's V4 or I have a Bucky Apple Pencil. I love your videos. Well, thanks, Steve. So when you're, what kind of brushes are you using? Because I haven't experienced it yet. Because when I'm drawing with the 6B pencil, for instance, it doesn't sputter at all. Usually the line brushes, pencils, and even your Stayf brushes. There have been some issues, and they're working on it. Savage Interactive is doing some, because this is already version, let me see, this is 4.0.4, and I'm also on the beta team of Procreate, and I cannot tell a lot about what they're doing, but there have been some problems with the new engine of Apple. So they had to rebuild Procreate in order to work well. And you know, I have some issues with the wet mix brushes, for instance. If I have a wet mix brush and just want to draw a line, then it just fades out. But these are the wet brushes. And Procreate 4 is a little bit unstable when you work in bigger files. But I didn't experience any problems with jittering lines. And as Rose Bean, hello Rose, adjust the Apple Pen's lid thingy. This thing needs to be really tight, the point of your Apple Pencil. So you can, you really need to screw it on. And this is actually my spare point, because I used one point from 2015, and now I had to change it. So they're very long-lasting pencils. Saad Al Baker says the pencil lid is already tight. Okay. So, well, maybe it's a problem in Procreate 4 or something else. What helps is to reset your Apple or your iPad, because there can be a bug with the new updates of Procreate, and then sometimes there is a bug, and the best thing to do is to restart your iPad and then try it again. Hello Benjamin, I Stayf, love your videos, even though I'm not a Procreate user, I still learn from them. Well, thanks Benjamin. Rose Bean, maybe check options or try adjusting streamline. I have no idea. Well, me neither. I didn't have a problem with it. I did have a problem with the Apple Pencil pairing, but that was in Procreate 3. And I had a different iPad, and this is the newer iPad. And now I don't have problems with the pairing of the Apple Pencil. Benjamin A asks, the canvas paintings you showed at the beginning, did you repaint them or did you print them from your Procreate work? I've painted them in Procreate, and then I had them printed on canvas, and then on top of that, and I'm just going to show you this one. So this is the, just show the actual file. This is the Procreate file. And here's the canvas. And I just painted over it with acrylic paint, because the bird I needed to redraw, and just some details to, you know, when you print something out, sometimes things are too dark, so I just did some adjustments for the highlights. Need to adjust the camera again. Let me see in the chat. FEH, welcome. What happens when the nib is round? Well, the nib is actually round, but my older was wearing down a little, and then you feel it on the surface of your iPad, then it becomes a little bit more scratchy, so then I changed it. Steve Isaacs asked, do you prefer iPad pencil or Wacom Cintiq for the best precision? I like the Apple Pencil better than the Wacom Cintiq, because Wacom hasn't really changed their styluses for a long time, and I've been drawing with a Wacom Cintiq since 2000. And when the Apple Pencil came out, it's for me the best experience to draw and paint with. But you know, I'm changing the style because I used to work as a comic artist, and now I'm, you know, really more into painting. So with the Apple Pencil, you know, you have a lot more pressure sensitivity than with the Wacom Cintiq. Steve Isaacs, your new Harlem works looks great. Well, thanks, Steve. Hello, Abdullah. Let me pronounce it right. Abdullahi Ahmed. How do hide the size and opacity when drawing? Sometimes it messes up my drawing. I think someone, Steve already, yeah, you have to tap with 4 fingers. So when you tap with 4 fingers on the screen, then everything is gone, and when you tap it again with 4 fingers, then it's back. Or you can tap this little thing in the upper left corner. Saad asks, yeah, Mr. Stayf, work is pleasant and encouraging. We don't ought to know many iPad artists on YouTube other than James Julia and Stayf and Austin Batchelor. Yeah, Austin Batchelor is also doing some great work. Abdullahi says thank you, and thanks, Steve. You're welcome. Ross Bean, I'd say put the video in Movie Maker and slow down the video. It's complicated, but it works. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Oh, there's another question. Hello, I've been following your video. You do a great tutorial about how can get complete video where you don't fast forward. Oh, you mean how to record your video? The best way is to, if you have a Mac, to plug in your iPad with your Mac, then you can record it with QuickTime. That's how I do my tutorials, when you just see the screen and don't see my hands. I just record it on my Mac. Saad, would you do collaboration videos with James Julia one day? Well, maybe. I'm not sure. He's doing his thing. He is in, I think, in England, and I'm in the Netherlands. So, you know, the best way to do a collaboration is when you're, you know, together. So, if he likes to do a collaboration, I would love to do that. So if there are any more questions, just ask them um, in the chat box. And I also see there is a super chat. I think that's new. Not sure what super chat is. Well, it's a $sign, so then you probably are paying something, but I'm not sure what super chat is. You can see it. There's a smiley. That these are the emojis, and there's the super chat. I'm not quite sure what that is. So this is it for now. I will do a longer version of painting this illustration, and also how I did the acrylics on canvas. Let me see. Rose asks, ever since the V4 update, my Procreate crashes a lot. It freezes for a while and exits me out. It's irritating, and it happens a lot. Any help? Yeah, I had some crashes as well. They're working on some updates because they had to redesign Procreate because there's a new engine in iOS 11, and they're working on it, so they will solve the problems. But you know, the best thing you can do is to how do you call it? Turn off your iPad, you know, with the home button and the other button, just to reset it, and then see if there's some improvement. EM, thanks, Steve. Well, you're welcome. So I'm just going to finish this live broadcast, and you can watch it later because this is recorded, and then YouTube will upload it to my channel. Kartik, hello. How much time do you usually spend on a piece of art from conception to finish? Well, around, it depends on what kind of artwork it is. This one was done in, let me see, already forgot, I think around 8 to 10 hours. EM, greetings from Katwijk. Well, greetings back, EM. So I'm going to close this broadcast. Thanks for watching and for all your questions. And next week I'll do a tutorial on how to print out artwork from Procreate on canvas and then paint over it with acrylics. Drawing is fun and practice makes perfect. See you next time. Doodles!